time my voice was super loud. I'm using the AirPods this time, so I'm testing things out, which kind of goes in line with what I talked about last week and what I'm talking about today. Last week, we talked about 3 things to help you kind of keep you moving forward. And if you haven't caught that video, you can see it in Facebook and on the page, or you can find it on YouTube on my channel there. And basically kind of the gist of that is that we need structure, we need support, and we need pliability. So the pliability piece is what I'm thinking of now when I think of trying new things. As one of my goals is to continuously create content, or to be more consistent with content, and then to decide what type of content and what that is going to be. Like, is it all video? Is it blogs? Is it articles? Where's all the content going to go? And I also want to do like a membership group for people where we can get a little bit more intimate. And then what that consistency is going to look like. And the thing is that I will get bogged down in my own perfectionist pressure, which is what we're talking about today, grace-filled goals versus perfectionist pressure. I get bogged down because I start to try to figure out exactly what I think it looks like to reach the end goal. For me, and this is like when I share some of these things, I know this is not the case for everybody because everybody's brain works differently. We also have different unique giftings and ways of operating. So for me, when I start to try to figure out exactly what it looks like, I get really bogged down and I don't move forward at all. But the perfectionist pressure is making sure that every step, every element of the end goal is perfect. And that really keeps us stuck. So whether it's you picturing what that end goal specifically needs to look like, or making sure that you don't mess up along the way, that perfectionist pressure shows up in so many ways, doesn't it? And that's my question for you. So I wanted to find out today if you wanted to share in the comments. Most people will probably watch this afterwards, which is totally fine. I know it's Friday afternoon, in some places at least where I'm at. Feel free to put the comments in there later and I'll go back and respond to you. But I'd like to know, how does perfectionist pressure show up for you when you have a goal that you want to work on? Do you know some goals that you want to work on, either in your personal life or your professional life, in your relationships, in maybe developing or creating relationships? So many of us have become isolated. We need connection, and sometimes we have to take some really intentional steps, creative steps, to find that connection. That's one of the things I'm doing this year, post grad school, is finding the people that I can connect with regularly. And so I'm in a few different things, and I may not stay involved in everything, but figuring out what's going to work best for me so that I'm involved in other people's lives. I'm not just in my own head, so that I have other people who are staying connected with me. We can talk to each other, every now and then about fun things or hard things, whatever it is. Want to have that connection. So I'd like to hear, what are your goals in life, personal or professional? And then how does that perfectionist pressure show up, and what does it do to you? As a counselor, one of my questions is, what do you notice happening in your body as you start to feel that perfectionist pressure? And then what are the thoughts that you're having? And it can be really helpful to write down those thoughts and write down what you're noticing. There's some physiology stuff that I'm not going to get into, just it is helpful. And that's one of the reasons that Unleash Heart and Soul Care Sheets can be really helpful, because it gives you a framework to put that down. But you can just use a journal, write down what your thoughts are, and then ask yourself, or kind of take a look at all those thoughts. And is the perfectionistic pressure external or internal? Both. What kind of pressure is coming from where? So for example, external pressure could be you are in a job where somebody has really high expectations of you, and or you have a parent or a roommate or somebody who's expecting things of you that are just way beyond what you're comfortable doing. So And by the way, it looks like I have one comment on here maybe, but I can't tell. It's not showing up right now. So if you see the little thing to put your name in there, make sure you do that so that if you do comment, I can call out to you. Anyway, the external pressure is coming from other people, right? Or circumstances. Maybe it's your body is just really limited because you're sick. A lot of us have been sick lately, right? Different things that are out of our control. They're coming from outside sources. Notice what those pressures are. And then, that kind of gives us an idea of things that are out of our control. Then we have to look at what is in our control in a healthy way. That's another whole topic. So the external versus internal. Internal pressure would sound like that critical voice, the judge, and it would be maybe the thoughts that are ruminating in your mind. And it could have started from an external source. So it could be somebody else's words that have now become internalized for you, and they're playing on repeat, or they've kind of locked into something that was already inside of you as a deeply held belief about who you are, and something that's negative about you. And then those thoughts just keep cycling. So notice what those thoughts are so that you're attending to them. And ask yourself, do these thoughts line up with God's voice? Do they line up with the voice that I want to have if I'm going to speak loving encouragement to another person? What would a loving voice sound like if they don't? Those are some questions that you could ask yourself for reflection on that external pressure or internal pressure, things that are happening. So the external pressure is probably more about, if this is all happening from other people, what options do I have? What choices do I have? And if you're really stuck in that, just as a side note, it can be helpful to explore that with a trusted friend, maybe somebody outside the situation, a life coach, a counselor. I do both coaching and counseling. Counseling is only in the state of Texas, but coaching for all over the place. Just a process, like all the stuff that's happening. And sometimes we can think we don't have any choices when we do. And trying to figure out what are some of those choices, right? And that can help reduce some of that pressure, perfectionist pressure, so that you can live out grace-filled goals, because you're recognizing, wait a minute, yeah, well, they're putting the pressure on me, but I can do this. And that's something I want to do. And I have that option. And that's giving grace for yourself to move in a different direction. Another question that I have for you around whatever goals you have, personal or professional, is what expectations do you have for yourself around those goals? Do you expect that those goals are going to be achieved specifically the way that you set out to do? I don't even know how to say that properly, but do you expect the goal to end up looking shaped exactly the way that you think it will when you start off? Do you expect that goal to happen when you do A, B, C, D, E, and F, you are going to get to G? Do you have that expectation in yourself that there is no other room to go a different direction? That is the only way to get there, or that is the way it has to happen? Ask yourself, are my expectations really high on myself? And then pause. And just notice wow, I have a lot of high expectations on myself. What if things change? What if I get sick? What if somebody else, I get sick, or I have to move, or big life changes happen? Or what if I start out going one direction, and really, even though I really believe God's calling me in that direction, what he has for me is somewhere else. If I'm not listening to God and I'm not responding because I'm so set out to achieve exactly what I think it should look like, the way I think it should look like, because that's how you do goals, then I won't be able to respond to what God says later. So basically what happens to us when we set out to do something, which is good, we need to have goals to set out to do, and things just don't go the way that we want them to. We can become defeated, more than disappointed, discouraged, and then completely defeated when our expectations don't meet up with, well, actually, let me step back. There's a difference between expectations and goals. And this is something that I've been talking about for a long time, because it's really helped me to step back with pressure for myself and perfectionist pressure that I have for other people to perform, to do things the way that I believe God wants them to do, even if it's what God does want them to do. Me having that pressure on them isn't helpful, right? In most cases, if we're advocating for change, it's kind of a different thing. But mind the gap between expectations and goals. Here's what I mean. We have an end goal that gives us direction and vision of where we're going to, right? We have an idea of what that looks like. It may be a really formed idea. It may be a vaguely formed idea. But because we have that goal, maybe you have a SMART goal and it's really clear. Maybe you have a less clear goal, but you start moving in that direction, okay? We cannot expect ourselves to go from here to here. We cannot expect, we need to change our expectations and allow them to meet us where we are. So, for example, I don't expect a baby to cook me dinner, right? They're not grown up. They don't have the capabilities to cook dinner for someone else, right? That would be ridiculous. But we expect things of ourselves that we haven't been trained in, as far as emotionally trained in, relationally trained in, skilled in, professionally. Maybe we expect things of ourselves that our brain isn't ready to handle completely. That doesn't mean that we can't get there. People who do long runs, who do workout competitions, who do musical performances, they take time. There's practice and steps along the way. So going back to expectations versus goals and minding the gap, consider, are my expectations at the goal, or are they meeting me where I am? And can I continue to adjust them along the way with grace? This is a grace-filled goal progression towards the goals set out before me. That is goals around faith. That is goals around performance, like job performance, anything like that. And along the way, we can be expectant that God will show up in the process. That is one thing that we can expect. God will show up in some way. Sometimes the way he shows up seems very quiet, maybe because he's helping us build our trust muscles with him in a sense. But we can't expect that God will be there for us, that he will be available to guide us, available to give us courage, available to comfort us, all of those things. Expect that there's going to be some missteps, some wrong turns, and forward progress. Expect both and. Expect that there's going to be the problems and the obstacles along the way. We don't have to focus there, and we're going to keep moving forward. They coincide. And then allow room for growth and change in you, in your situations, and in the other people in your life. Allow room for that. And remember, whatever is going on today is not what it was yesterday, and is not what it will be tomorrow. Today is today, and God is with you where you're at. Take care, friends.